Here are 5 things that I kind of messed up on and failed in the garden this year. My name's Cara, this is Bluebird Homestead. Welcome, I'm so glad y'all are here. We do gardening, cooking, homesteading type videos, so subscribe and follow along if you're into that kind of content. I thought it'd be a great idea to share them with you guys, that way you can learn from my mistakes and do things differently. I've been gardening for several years now. This is our garden here behind me. We have a bunch of raised beds that are long and skinny on that side of the garden and some shorter ones over here. The garden has been a lot of fun and I love to garden, but I always am learning new things and things that I can improve upon, and this year was no exception. The first main fail was this trellising for our dahlias. It did not work. We planted a lot of dahlias this year all along the L-shaped beds around the outer perimeter of the garden.
Dahlias are a beautiful type of flower that comes in a variety of different colors.
My husband Ryan installed these big wooden stakes throughout the garden where the dahlias were planted, and then we tied some twine in between each stake. We thought it would be kind of like a corral method to keep the dahlias in. It did not work for us though. The dahlias just fell right on over. The dahlias just kind of spilled right over into the grassy areas of the garden, and they just kind of tumbled over inside the bed too. We still got lots and lots of beautiful flowers though. I absolutely love the dahlias in the garden, and there were so many different pretty varieties. We still got to enjoy a big bountiful harvest of dahlias this year. I just did not like the way they looked aesthetically in the beds. So next year we need to figure out a different method of supporting the dahlias, or maybe just tweaking our corral method. It may have worked better if we had had multiple strands of twine instead of just one. I just dug up a few dahlia tubers right here so that you could see an empty spot. This bed is about 3 foot wide, and so maybe we just need a middle support across as well. 3 foot across was maybe just a little too far for the corral method to work. One area where the corral method did work was over here on this side. This dahlia leaned in just the perfect direction and kind of supported itself on the twine, and it did not fall over. But you can see this one here in the middle has a significant lean to it and was just growing at a very strict diagonal all summer. So not supporting dahlias properly was our fail number 1 this year. Fail number 2 has to do with this arch tunnel in our drip irrigation system. For those of you who are new to our channel, we installed a drip irrigation system earlier this past spring before the growing season, and it's in every single raised bed. The drip irrigation system we truly do love. It's been wonderful. With it, I have not watered the garden at all really this summer, except the initial watering in of the plants. I should have had an additional row of drip tape right up close to this cattle panel. The closest one is about a foot away from it, which worked fine later on in the summer once the plants were already established. However, in that initial time period when the seedlings were just starting to grow, some of our green bean plants, which is what we've primarily had growing on all these cattle panels, got a little bit scorched. I had a baby earlier this summer, so the last thing I had time to do was come out here and water little seedlings. We still harvested tons and tons of green beans off of all these cattle panels. The plants never quite made it up over the arch this year fully like they did last year, and I think that was probably because they didn't have sufficient water during that seedling stage before their roots really got developed. So next year I'm going to be installing an additional row of drip tape closer to the arch cattle panels. The way this header tube is set up along the edge of the bed, I can easily just punch another hole in here and add an additional row of drip tape. Now, I truly do love the drip irrigation system. I'm not just saying that. Full disclosure, we've only had it a year or so, but so far it's been working great. We do have an affiliate link for the drip irrigation system in the description box. And if you plan on purchasing a drip system through dripdepot.com, we really would appreciate it if you use the affiliate link to order. It's at no extra cost to you. Just by clicking the link before you place your order, it simply lets Drip Depot know that we sent you over to them. We have a game plan to fix plan number 2 next year. All we have to do is add an additional row of the drip tape closer to the edge of the arch panels. That way I don't have to water at all. I didn't water this year anyway, but next year the plants will be better with me not watering. Fail number 3 in the garden this year has to do more with timing than anything. I did not harvest my onions or my garlic at the right time this year. They went past by several weeks. Now, I was in the hospital having a baby, so that's a pretty good excuse. But I did have a friend offer to harvest all my garlic and onions, and I said, oh no, you don't have to worry about it. I'll do it later. I should have just taken her up on the offer and had her harvest everything, because I ended up then having to put up and preserve all of our onions and all of our garlic with a newborn. And that was not the most fun thing to do. We grew lots and lots of garlic and onions this year in order to have enough supply to last us for the entire year. Last year, when we grew our onions and garlic, we were able to cure them and store them whole, and they stored whole all year long. This year, however, because we missed that window of harvesting, the curing process was not going so well. Some of the onions and garlic started to get a little mushy and were starting to get soft. So rather than risk them rotting completely, I went ahead
and preserved the entire harvest.
I ended up dicing up all of our onion harvest and putting them into individual vacuum seal freezer bags and freezing them. This was a lot of work to do with a newborn, so I would have preferred to have them cure and store that way, but that just wasn't happening this year. It will be convenient though when it comes time to cooking, because in each individual bag is one onion pre-diced, ready to go. So the hard work is already done of prepping an onion for a recipe. I have something quick I can dump in the crock pot, Instant Pot, or whatever meal I need to make with it. For our garlic, since our garlic was not curing well, I dehydrated all the garlic and I made a big jar of garlic powder. So even though I didn't harvest the onions or the garlic at the optimal time, we still will be using that harvest and enjoying it for our family. It wasn't a complete waste. So not harvesting onions and garlic at the optimal time was fail number 3. For fail number 4, let's go over to where we have our berries planted. This is our raspberry patch. And as you can see, there's nothing really there. That's fail number 4. Our raspberry bushes are basically so tiny you have to be on top of them to see them. That is how big our raspberries have gotten. Our raspberry plants are so tiny. I was so excited when I planted all these raspberries, because who doesn't love fresh raspberries? And I think we harvested like 10 total off of these little plants, and they're so tiny. They're about this big. Some of them are second-year plants, and some of them, this was the first year that I planted them. I think that perhaps this spot is a little too shaded. I planted them here along the wood line because I thought I would just let them kind of go crazy and they could plant suckers and do their thing here and be happy. However, they're obviously not very happy in this spot, I think. So I am going to be transplanting these raspberries probably over next to our blackberries or somewhere in that vicinity. And hopefully they'll do a lot better there, because you should really be seeing a lot more raspberries right here, not just teeny tiny little shoots. You do see a cute dog. Our dog Scotty is sniffing them out. The other thing is, being so close to the tree line here, I've wondered if maybe some animals have been getting at the bushes too. But I think probably the biggest reason the raspberries failed this year is because it's just not the optimal spot for them to be planted. This is also our path into the woods to get lumber for our fire and whatnot. And I think they've probably gotten run over a couple times. The UPS man also likes to back up right here. So it's just not the best spot for them. On the to-do list is to move them over here next to our blueberries and blackberries. I think we'll probably just make a couple more rows of berries here. One of the reasons I wanted to make this video today is to show you the world of YouTube is not perfect. Just because I have a garden on YouTube does not mean I know what I'm doing about everything. I just want to share the journey with you guys. And I love talking about gardening and my plants. And I think my family was kind of getting tired of hearing me talk about them so much. So I thought, hey, I'll make YouTube videos and share them with everybody else. And and I thought I'd connect with fellow gardeners who love gardening and plants as much as I do. I use the term fails because I wanted to show that I fail at some things in gardening, but I really think fail's kind of a harsh word. I think everything, even if it seems like a fail at the time, is just a learning opportunity and helps you grow as a gardener or as a person in the future. Now, there's definitely some mistakes I've repeated over the years and some things that I just need to get better at personally, dedication-wise. Like, I'm still not the best at training things up these trellises, which is fail number 5. I have cantaloupe and a few different melons here planted along this last trellis, and they kind of went crazy. I also had squashes and some cucumbers planted here too. And while I was really dedicated and was training them up the trellis, weaving them throughout this cattle panel as they grew the first couple months, then as soon as I started getting uncomfortable at the end of pregnancy, they stopped being trained and everything kind of went all over the ground and spilled out into the pathways. It didn't affect how much food we got though. We still harvested way more than we could eat, and we were able to share with friends and family and random strangers too. Those were 5 of the main major things I failed at in the garden this year, but of course there's a bunch of other little things too. Those are just the first 5 big ones that came to mind of things I want to improve upon for next year and do a little bit differently. If you have your own garden fails that you had this year, if it's comical, if it's just a serious note, let us know what they are in the comments. It's great to learn from other gardeners, and this gardening community is really great because you can share your knowledge with other people, so maybe they can avoid the same mistakes that you and I make. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Cara again. If you're new here, please be sure to subscribe and like today's video if you enjoyed it. Bye, y'all.